So today we're going to be picking up on my series of Nautobot in development environments. Our topic today will be setting up a development environment for ChatOps. And so initially what I'm wanting to get into today is that we're going to create a new workspace within Slack. We're going to be setting up a custom app within Slack, and we're going to be using a fun little tool called NGROK. NGROK is great for being able to use in a development environment perspective. This is not something I ever would use in a production environment, and I would make sure that I am spinning down my environment when I am done and using it in a very measured approach, because what we're doing with NGROK is going to be exposing essentially a tunnel and an FQDN onto this local machine or onto my local development environment. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. So I've already gone through and downloaded the NGROK package. So if you come over and you just go to ngrok.com, go to downloads, you can see the specific version of OS that you need, download the specific package. I'm running Ubuntu, so I just downloaded that. So I'm going to unzip it. All right, and then so we can see that we have NGROK is now there, and I don't believe I should have to do anything, and I am running on port 8000. So now if I come over and look at the NGROK super simple documentation, I'm getting up and going. All I have to do is fire it up, and I can just do NGROK HTTP, and then I'm running on port 8000. So I can either run on port 443 or I can run on port 8000, but we're just going to run on port 8000 because that is what the actual Nautobot web service is running on. So that's all that we're going to use for now. So we'll do .ngrok HTTP 8000. All right, so we can see we got a couple things going on right here. We've got a localhost web interface on 4040. We've got forwarding coming from the public internet on port 80 for this specific URL pattern here, and then on port 443 on this URL pattern here. So if we just grab this FQDN that we are getting from NGROK, we come over to our browser, we will see that I now have my Nautobot instance that's readily available and is publicly facing. So as you can see, this is just creating a tunnel from outside of the public internet through my app onto my local development workstation and exposing just port 8000 on port 80 and 443. So like I stressed, use this with caution. This is not something that I feel should ever be ran in production, but this is something that is great for working in a development environment. And there's additional options that you can use with NGROK every time that I spin up and spin down my instance. So if I come here and I Control C and I run it again, we'll see that my HTTP pattern has changed. And if I come back over here to try and refresh, my tunnel is not found. So I'd have to come grab my new tunnel. NGROK does allow you with a free account to have more persistency than with a anonymous account, because at this time I'm running it just anonymously, but you can create an account and run it with that account and get more persistency on your FQDN so that you don't have to worry about things disappearing as much. So this is essentially half of the battle as far as getting things up and going and ready for a ChatOps integration. So the next thing that we need to do is that we're actually going to go through and do a little bit of the docs on getting set up. I didn't mean to go development. So here's all of our fun stuff that's going to be specific to Nautobot ChatOps. And one thing I do need to do before we even get to that point is I do need to add this to my environment. I need to do a poetry add. Don't see it. That's fine. Installation guide. I just want to make sure that it wasn't Nautobot plugins ChatOps. It should say poetry out of Nautobot ChatOps. So let's go ahead and come over here, do a Control C. I'm in my virtual environment. I'll do a poetry add of Nautobot ChatOps in the wrong directory. That would help. Poetry add Nautobot ChatOps. Right. And then inside of our Nautobot config file, which as we were picking up from our previous Nautobot development session, this is just using the default Nautobot config file coming from a Nautobot server init. So now all I need to do is do a little bit of configuration inside of my plugins. That, and let's just for giggles, let's see if this is going to be up and running as expected with just this. Now this is not going to be actually setting it up with my Slack instance. This is just to make sure that I've got the plugin created. I'm sorry, not created, plugin installed correctly. So first we need to migrate because I got a fun little red warning message saying that I have not migrated. So now let's do a run server. Come back over here, go to admin, install plugins, and we can see that we have our Nautobot ChatOps plugin installed. So this is all that we need for this very second. So now let's jump over and let's do a Slack workspace. So if we come over here and we take a peek at the setup for Slack, let's first go to, and I'm not going to set up a new workspace. I'm going to use an existing workspace that I already have. Oh, why did I click on that? New tab. So we're going to come over here. And so we're going to call this Nautobot dev env. I've got so many fun workspaces that are up and going. Let's see, let's do no pineapple on pizza, because if you put pineapple on pizza, you're a crazy person. Let's go ahead and create that app. All right, so we've got our first step done. So we've created our app inside of there. So now underneath basic information, we need to add features and functionality and select the interactive components. So we have what our URL pattern is going to roughly look like. So I'm just going to snatch this from here, come back over here, and they have changed this up just a little bit. So add features and functionality. I want to go back to the previous way that they configured these, because this configuration does not match, and this is an older way of doing this. So let's we have found it going all the way around the world. So I need to do interactive components. Okay, so essentially, manage enable features. I don't like where we're going to do this, but we're going to see if we can make it work. So it looks like just recently that Slack may have updated their Slack API user interface. So it looks like there may be some updates that we can do to the docs for that, but that's all good. So with the manage distribution interactivity, we're going to turn interactivity on. we're going to put our URL in, but remember, we need to also grab our FQDM from NGROK. So come back over here. So we got our HTTPS, API plugins, ChatOps, Slack interactions. So cool. Got that done. Next, we're going to be coming down into basic information, add function. We're going to go to slash commands, and we are going to set up a slash command. And our URL pattern is going to be very similar, except it's going to be Slack slash command after we have ChatOps. Same thing, grab this. Fun. All right, so we got all that fun stuff there. So before we kind of proceed on, there is the concept of giving you the ability to namespace your Slack commands. And so what it's going to be looking for from the Nautobot perspective is whatever the command is. So let's dive into that just a little bit. So if we wanted to namespace it, we would be prepending our namespace to the beginning portion of the command itself. So no matter what, the trailing portion of the names of the command still has to be Nautobot, because we're doing the Nautobot command, because that's what's defined inside of the Nautobot ChatOps plugin. But if we wanted to namespace it to say dev env Nautobot, we can absolutely do that. And we can configure that inside of our Nautobot config file. So this would be our namespace. This is our slash command. So we can go ahead and save that. If we come back here, what we can see here is that under basic information, also enabled such as Nautobot or Nautobot Network 2. So yeah, we'll get to the specific variable that we need to set in just a moment. Kind of stepping through this to make sure I'm not missing anything. Basic information, got my Slack command, top level command, That's all good. Slash command prefix. So this is the specific config item that we're going to need to override. So if we wanted to do that, let's go ahead and start working on our config file. So we can grab that here. We're going to go into our plugin config. We're going to specify our Nautobot ChatOps as the specific plugin that we're specifying the configuration item for. And we are going to grab our Slack slash command prefix. And let's come back over here. We did dev env Nautobot. Or dev, come on. There we go. Grab that. That is what our Slack slash command prefix is going to be. Come back over here. Let's see. All right, on basic information, app credentials, signing secret, we'll go to show. And I'm going to go through and reset all of these, so that's not a big deal. Basic information. All right, so we got our signing secret and we've got our verification token. So let's see what, know that we are going to need our signing secret. And that's going to be Slack signing secret. Then we're going to go through and assign all of our permissions. So we'll go to OAuth and permissions. And I'm actually, just to make this easy, to split these up so I don't have to continue to go back and forth between each window. If I can do it my hacky way of going through manage distributions. All right, looks like I don't have a choice, but we are going to be doing this through scopes. I'm sorry, doing this through the manifest itself, which is all good. Good, good, good. So grab our OAuth config. Oh, it was already there. So this is actually going to make it just a little bit easier. So I can just kind of come through, grab those, and I'm just going to grab that, just to make it super easy. Come on. Never remember this off the top of my head. That's fine. Just come back over here. And we will just do it this way. Gotta love when things don't go exactly as planned in a live demo, but you know what? It's all good. These are just happy little fun craziness. So we've got our scopes that are now added. All right. Go back to basic information. Now here's going to be the fun part. Where do we install this into our workspace? Install app. Right there where it says install app. Love it. All right. So we're going to install this into general channel to no pineapple on pizza. We're going to allow that. Need to grab our token right there. Come back over here, go here. Slack API token. So save that. I think that's all the information we're going to need from there. All right. So we've got our Slack /command prefix, which this is going to give us the ability to namespace our Nautobot service. The ChatOps framework does give you the ability to you can reuse the ChatOps framework and develop your own separate chat commands. We have an open source chat command called Ansible Tower that works with AWX and Ansible Tower. But let's say you wanted to, there was already an existing chatbot within your environment that used the Ansible command, so you couldn't just reuse /Ansible. You wanted to make sure it was namespace. So you could do dev-env Ansible, or if you don't specify line 243, which is the Slack /command prefix, there is not going to be any namespacing, in which we can showcase that in just a moment. So now the next thing that we need to do, this is the one thing that always seems to bite me, is the fact that I never go through and I always forget to go through and clear, I'm sorry, not clear out, add the bot to the workspace. So I'll bring this back over here. So I've got my fun little chatbot, and so in theory, all I need to do now is to bot dev-env to add it into this channel. So we want to make sure that we add it to the channel. And that is this specific steps here. This is the most commonly missed step. So this step and your scopes are your two most commonly missed steps whenever you're first configuring and setting up a Nautobot chatbot within a workspace. So now, oh, we have one more thing we need to do. We need to enable Slack. Forgot about that piece. So let's recap. So we have our Slack /command prefix, our Slack signing secret, our Slack API token, and then we're saying that we're wanting to enable the Slack ChatOps, or the Slack portion of the ChatOps. So let's come back up here. I need to restart my service so that I know that everything is there. And if I come back over here and I do dev-env, you can see the reason why I namespace it is I add from another chatbot. I already have the Nautobot command here, so I have my dev-env Nautobot. And so I can issue my dev-env Nautobot, and you can see, wait, I'm missing something. I don't have permission to access this organization. Contact your Nautobot administrator. So this is my dev environment. I have admin access to it. So let's see, where do I need to go to make these changes? So inside of, now that we have the Nautobot ChatOps plugin installed, we see we have the plugins menu that's now appeared. And we need to start specifying some access grants for Slack to be able to communicate. So if we want to say any command, we can just use star, or if we wanted to be explicit, say Nautobot, we can do that, but we're just going to say star. If we wanted to limit to just the specific subcommands you could run, which we'll get to what subcommands are in our demo in just a moment, you can limit the subcommands. Right now, this is yelling at us about an organization, and this is just going to be dev-env org. And so the organization is going to be coming from, I believe that's going to be the ID for the Slack workspace, if I'm not mistaken. And then corresponding ID. And then we can just go say start here. So like I said, we're just setting this up for our development environment, and let's give it a shot again. Let's see if we're off to the races. Nope. Now I'm saying I don't see it in general. All right, so let's go through, let's do the same thing. Let's specify our command, our chat command, our grant type is going to be channel, and then we're just going to say star. I don't really, because like I said, this is the development environment. I could specify general, but I'm just going to say star, and star. And we're still not going to be working, but just kind of stepping through, we can very easily see that the last thing that we need to do is specify a user grant. So you can see we can enforce an additional level of granularity and RBAC controls natively within the ChatOps framework itself, and not have to worry about relying solely on RBAC from Slack, which is, there's not as much granularity with the RBAC directly in Slack on who has access to what. So we can enforce another layer of RBAC controls on top of it. Or you can just do the crazy stuff I'm doing right now and just do an implicit allow any. I'm sorry, essentially just doing a permit any, which in a production environment you would probably want to be a little bit more controlled than just doing essentially a permit any. Right. Ah, we got one last thing that we're missing. We do not have a worker process. So let's just quickly go through and do a Nautobot server RQ worker. I believe that's the syntax. I may have to look that up. No module name. ChatOps. I'm in the wrong virtual environment. That would be why. All right, now I can go through and do my Nautobot server command. Yep, I knew I was going to get that wrong. So RQ worker, all one word, no dashes, no nothing or anything from that standpoint. So let's come back over here. Let's look at our YouTube reports. We can see that we had a couple things that were blocked. Now let's give this one last try. Okay, 200 here, getting our chat ops. Go slash command. It's not hitting our RQ worker. All right, we got our Redis. We have Redis up and running. We have our RQ worker running. The only other thing I can think of is maybe the system's flopped over to Celery. All right, let me look at some docs real quick. We'll be off to the races. This is not stuff. This is something I can always overcome. or if I actually exported my environment variables. Wasn't it? Good. Let's check this out. That was it. Ah, my goodness. I was trying to use RQWork and we swapped over to Celery. Look at me just being a terrible reader of documentation. So let's kind of review this. Let's go back and take a peek at what Giphy is a good one. I don't need me a good GIF right now. So let's do a Nautobot dev environment. We see the job came in to the Celery worker, and we can see that we have our dev Nautobot with subcommands of get VLANs, get interface connection, get device status, get device facts. So we get up all these fun information about all the different all the different subcommands that we can do with Nautobot. One of the cool things that you can kind of keep in mind, so one of the things to keep in mind is that there's the concept of commands and subcommands. And so the command, like I mentioned, our command is Nautobot, and because this is what is configured in the worker.py, that is when you're instantiating the Nautobot command. And then the subcommand is the first positional argument after this. So we see get VLAN. So get VLAN is a subcommand of Nautobot. If I create a new chatbot, so let's say I create a new plugin that I'm inheriting from the ChatOps framework, and I create my own command of aquarium, IP range, whatever it may be, I can't just do dev environment dash aquarium space get VLANs, because that subcommand is directly correlated to the parent command. So get VLANs is only directly published to Nautobot. It's not published to any of the other commands that are built within the Nautobot ChatOps framework. In similar fashion, on the reverse side, I can't use Nautobot to pull out an aquarium command for my other ChatOps framework or my other ChatOps plugin that I created. They are exclusive together. After the underlying subcommand, you have the positional arguments that can be passed in. And the positional arguments can be done based off of either just passing in the command and the subcommand, and it will query for what's available. And actually, let's just go through and let's add a little bit of, I don't want to go through and do that one because that'll take a little bit. Let's do VLAN. So let's just go ahead and add a VLAN. VLAN ID 1234. Dev status active, create that. So we'll come back over here and we will do a dev Nautobot get VLANs. And so we'll see that I didn't specify what my filter type is or what my filter value is. And so since I did not specify the positional arguments, the ChatOps framework is implemented to where it's going to prompt me for these positional arguments. It's going to help me build out that command itself. So we can say that I want to look at name and then specify dev, and we'll see that I have that. Or I can do this, and you can see here as well that it gives me the full command, where if I wanted to specify the full command and not have to be stepped through the process, I can just specify the full command itself, and it'll go through and give me that exactly what I'm looking for. So cool, very fun, interesting little demo for today. I'm going to do a little bit more digging to see what changes have happened from the documentation perspective with the Slack API. And yeah, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any ideas for future streams,